Hi, I'm Hollywood's Tom Hanks, but you might remember me as my favorite role, Colin Cosell, in the weekly newscast, the SNM Network. You know, we found an old episode from 1963 in our vaults and figured, why not share it with you in honor of our anniversary? So, enjoy. It's Tuesday, December 31st, 1963, and this is the SNM Year in Review. Good day and welcome to the SNM Network, brought to you by Lucky Strike Cigarettes. Had a rough day? Strike up a Lucky. I'm Salem Winchester. Ah, what a year it's been. 63 went by so fast, it blows my mind. And while we're on the topic of blown minds, our top story of the year was the tragic assassination of President Kennedy. For more on this, we turn to the Facebook's Peter John Burns, who notes, the only thing worse than being assassinated is having to spend the rest of the day in Dallas. Number sign, too soon. It's never too soon to remind people about how awful Texas truly is. And it also serves as a reminder that everyone in Texas should wear a helmet. Speaking of retards, which we can say because it's 1963, we continue in politics and the election of Alabama Governor George Wallace. We remind you that this segment is brought to you by Lark Cigarettes. Lark, richly rewarding yet uncommonly smooth. Which is exactly how one would not describe how the governor feels about black people. We return to political analyst, the Facebook's Peter John Burns, who adds, George Wallace is so anti-integration, he won't even put cream in his coffee. There's also rumors that Governor Wallace had fake trees planted around his property to ensure that none of the leaves ever turn brown. Continuing with Wallace's nightmare is our coverage of civil rights, which is brought to you by Pall Mall. Pall Mall, outstanding, and they are mild. Not so mild this year were the mixed emotions about the civil rights movement. For instance, Twittergram reporter The Fear Boners, boner means mistake in 1963, by the way, lamented, civil rights? More like civil yikes. Hey, don't flip your wig, Fear Boners. Not everyone fears change. In fact, some people are drowning in it. For coverage of our hostility on the front lines of the movement, we turn to Kim Tish, who Twittergrammed us the following report, which is the sound of someone being shot by a hose at an equality march. Now that's some ace reporting there, Kim. Now burn rubber back to the studio before I end up pushing up daisies. Wow, these writers are cool cats. There's no way any of these phrases would sound stupid 50 years from now. Never gets old. It's now time for a look at women's rights, which is sponsored by Carlton. If you smoke, please smoke Carlton. Well, of course you smoke. It's 1963, you dipstick. Now, while some ladies don't feel like they have enough rights, the Facebook's Julie Peterson would beg to differ, as she notes, I am so happy I don't have to worry about such silly things as a career, voting, Germans, and birth control. All of that has been decided for me here in 1963. You know what? She's right. It is 1963. So the next time your best gal starts giving you lip, give her a Carlton, a swift pat on the bottom, and tell her to pipe down. Moving on to commie news, which is brought to you by Coca-Cola. As our friend Barry Bow always says, Coca-Cola, you can really taste the cocaine when it's right out of the icebox. Now, while many are concerned about that icebox we call Russia, we got a special report from Tea Party Cat who alerts us via Twittergram, just got back from filing the forged birth certificate of our sleeper agent in Hawaii. Maui is nice, but it's not Kenya. Well, Godspeed whoever you are, little buddy. Even though you can never be president, you can still make a difference for those God-fearing freedom lovers across our great nation. But since they mentioned Kenya, we now turn to world news, which is brought to you by Winston Cigarettes. Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. You know what else tastes good? Freedom in a third world country. Twittergram's doing a jig. Ha! A jig. That's a bit outdated. Anyway, here reports breaking news. Kenya gains independence from Britain. Vows to never lose a foot race again. So I guess this means we won't be calling them British East Africans, which is what we called Kenya for the better part of 1963, which is the year right now. Also in world news, the conflict in Vietnam continues. Never to worry, as the Facebook's Brian Meehan reports, we'll be out of Nam in a couple of months, tops. Spot on, Brian. Land wars in Asia just don't have the staying power of a good world war. And that's why the SNM Network is America's most reliable news source. Trust us. It's now time for sport. Well, I hope that doesn't catch on. Which is sponsored by Marlboro Cigarettes. You get a lot to like with a Marlboro. However, baseball fans in New York don't have much to like, as the Facebook's Benjamin Christensen noted, wow, the New York Mets really suck. Well, just because their 40-120 record was the worst regular season ever doesn't mean they're going to be like that forever. After all, they're in New York and have some new broadcaster, whose name is Howard Cosell or something, doing their pre- and post-game reports. What could possibly go wrong? And finally, news fans, it's time to take a look at the year ahead, which is brought to you by Camel Cigarettes. More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. And if a doctor says so, it doesn't get safer than that. Anyway, Twittergram reporter Bill McSeven says, my New Year's resolutions are to eat more red meat and take up smoking. Well, Bill, you candy ass, I can't imagine why you're not smoking yet, unless you're under the age of 10. And anyway, I'm sure this whole cancer thing will blow over in no time. Regardless, this has been our SNM Network Year in Review 1963. As our dear friend the Leanover predicts, we're going to look forward to a very quiet decade. And remember, if you want to be one of our reporters, send a self-addressed stamped envelope with your story in it to P.O. Box SNM Network, New York, New York. To hell with these newfangled zip codes. I'm Salem Winchester reminding you to be sure to avoid the communist, better dead than red, comrade. And always, watch what you say, because we are.